হ্যালো, আসসালামু আলাইকুম। হ্যালো দেশবাসী, কেমন আছেন? আপনারা সবাই ভালো আছেন? আজকে একটা নিউজ দেখলাম শ্রীলঙ্কার কি অবস্থা বলেন। আল্লাহ না জানি আমাদের দেশের অবস্থা জানি এরকম না হয়। আল্লাহ আমার দেশকে রহম করুন। আপনারা দেখেন শ্রীলঙ্কার এই ভিডিওটা দেখলে বুঝতে পারবেন শ্রীলঙ্কার কি অবস্থা।
Gotabaya Rajapaksa has fled Sri Lanka and landed in the Maldives after failing to escape to his first choice destination, Dubai. The former president resigned on Wednesday, designating the Prime Minister, Ranil Wickremesinghe, as the new acting president. He has declared a state of emergency, a curfew, and police have deployed tear gas to disperse crowds of protesters still out on the streets. People do not seem ready to embrace the country's new leader.
Yes, I definitely want both resign, and I think a new regime needs to come into place, and I think Sri Lanka still has hope.
Even if the Prime Minister becomes president, he has no mandate. The president had some of the people's support. Wickremesinghe does not have the support of the people at all, and we're not prepared to recognise him as the president.
Now the politicians should realise the power of the people, and they should listen to the people's commands.
After storming other government buildings, protesters turned their attention to the Prime Minister's office. DW's Munir Chaudhry was at the scene in the Sri Lankan capital, Colombo.
Well, yes, I'm right on the same street where the Prime Minister's office is located. We're just coming from there. They are all over the place. There are hundreds of people inside the premise of the Prime Minister's office. They are cheering. They are raising slogans. They are raising the flag of Sri Lanka. They are sitting atop of on the roofs of the Prime Minister's office. So they have finally managed to force their way inside. I've been to Sri Lanka, to Colombo multiple times, and every time I've come, the situation has gotten worse. We have seen rows and queues of people outside, fuel stations outside, cooking gas stations. They're not able to get anything. The prices of the medicines have shot up. The ambulance services have announced that they can't cater to every area because they are also out of fuel. So the crisis has only deepened. But the thing is that the economic crisis will not be stabilized till the time the country finds some stability in the politics, in the government. So that is what is remaining right now.
Joining us is Ambika Sakunanathan, former Human Rights Commissioner of Sri Lanka. Thanks for joining the program.
Thank you for having me.
Ambika, I'm curious what happens next. Is anyone really in charge?
Yes, technically the president has still not resigned. And while he is out of the country, he has appointed the Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as acting president, and the speaker has also announced that the president has informed him that during the course of today he will submit his resignation. So if and when the president submits his resignation, then automatically the Prime Minister becomes the interim president. And they've already announced the date for the reconvening of Parliament, which is the 15th, and the nominations to be filed for in Parliament for the president to be chosen by Parliament. That's on the 19th, and on the 20th they will vote to elect the president, who will then serve out the rest of the term of the current president.
Now, among the protesters, in terms of what they want, is there a consensus moving forward, or is there a diversity of opinions from people who've taken to the streets for months?
Well, the protesters, there are so many different groups. And there is a group that has generally been, for over 90 days at Gota Gogama in Colombo. Then there are various other protests taking place in different parts of the country. And the only consensus that we can see until now is that they want the president to resign and they want the prime minister to resign. At the moment, that appears to be the only consensus and the main demand. So as we speak, there are thousands of protesters outside Prime Minister and, now acting President Ranil Wickremesinghe's office, demanding that he step down. The police have used and the military have used water cannons. They have used tear gas against them. And the situation there right now is quite tense.
Quite a fast-developing situation. I want to take a step back. I mean, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was part of a political dynasty. We've talked about this before. His brother was the former finance minister who's also fleeing. Other than their exile, will there be any accountability from this family, or do you think they have escaped the law?
Well, Sri Lanka doesn't have a good track record with accountability, whether it is in relation to corruption or in relation to wartime violations. And therefore, whether in country any members of this family will be held accountable is doubtful. I feel that particularly given the president's involvement in wartime violations, the allegations against him, that there is probably a higher likelihood of the president at least being held accountable outside the country than inside the country.
That's very interesting. Something to watch in the coming months. Ambika Sakunanathan, thank you so much for joining us, as always.
Thank you very much.
The political crisis is hitting citizens at the pump with record high prices. In an effort to conserve fuel, the government is asking people to work from home and has closed schools. Restaurants have even switched to cooking meals with wood. Here's a closer look at how people are enduring life in Sri Lanka.
For 7 days, Azam Mohadeen has been waiting here in a kilometre-long line for gas in Sri Lanka's capital, Colombo. He'd heard a new fuel delivery was coming. He's spent day and night here since.
There is simply no more fuel. We have no more gas at home to cook. We used to have an income, but for weeks now the money has stopped coming. We can't go on like this. Life is hard.
To make matters worse, his wife is ill. He tries to spend a little time with her every day at lunchtime, risking losing his place in line.
I keep calling him when he is there waiting. It's the tormenting thoughts that have made me sick. I was even admitted to hospital. We didn't even have fuel for him to drive me there.
Many people in Sri Lanka face similar problems. Inflation is soaring and prices are skyrocketing, even for essentials like food. Hardly anyone can afford to buy what they need.
People used to have 3 meals a day most of the time. Now it's either 2 or 1. Sometimes people are drinking water instead of eating.
We don't know what to do, what to give our children. They say they're hungry, but we don't have anything for them.
We can't drink tea with milk anymore. We have no milk powder. We just about managed to buy rice, but even that is very expensive.
Another day has gone by in the line for gas. And for Azam Mohadeen, it's again been fruitless. His one hope that after the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, better times will finally come.
Only when we get problems like the fuel crisis solved can we live a life worth living. I haven't lost faith yet that a new government will give us fresh hope, and change will finally happen.
Until then, Azam Mohadeen will spend another night in line, hoping that he will finally get a few litres of fuel.